All right. Welcome into the Hockey Talk Show, Season 3, Episode 7, and plenty of hockey action to talk about with you guys today, right here live from hockeytalkshow.com, Facebook and YouTube. Thumbs up all around. Comment below. Let's do some questions today on the Hockey Talk Show. I want to go around the league and find out what do you think about your team and how they're doing so far in this early season. If you're listening on a podcast, by the way, you can always tweet us at Hockey Talk Show on Twitter. That's at Hockey Talk Show on Twitter. We love to interact way after the fact, even if you're not here for the live show. Totally appreciate you guys listening on Apple Podcasts. Rate and review if you can. All right, let's hop into the day's news. Vancouver Canucks going to name a captain. Who is that going to be? We'll speculate. Vegas, Detroit, Carolina. We're off to some interesting starts so far early on in this season. Speaking of interesting starts, Winnipeg lost yet another defenseman. I cannot believe what that back end looks like. We'll go in and analyze that. The Islanders bringing back their third jerseys. How about that? I thought we were losing them this year. Turns out the Islanders will bring back the third jerseys. And one of our favorite things to talk about on this episode of the Hockey Talk Show.
We have a trade to announce.
How about that? The Rangers active early on in this season with a trade to the Ottawa Senators. We'll get into all of it. Why, who, what, when. We got a Hockey Talk Show. All right, again, comments below, questions. What do you think about your team? What do you want to know about your team so far early on in this season? How you feeling about what's going on with your favorite franchise? We got lots of stuff. I want to start with Evgeni Malkin and the Pittsburgh Penguins. Not great news there if you're a Pittsburgh Penguins fan. Nick Bjugstad out for a long time. Evgeni Malkin out for a long time. We talked about depth being an issue with a lot of teams so far this season. You talk about moving out Phil Kessel, bringing in the unproven Alex Galchenyuk, and what that franchise is going to look like. And now you look at this and you go, okay, you don't have Bjugstad, you don't have Evgeni Malkin. You're going to lean a little heavier on Sidney Crosby, who, by the way, threw some hands this past weekend in Columbus. What was it with Pierre-Luc Dubois? This is Sidney Crosby throwing some look at this. A little fury in here. Look at my man Crosby getting angry in the corners, having to defend himself. I think this was shortly after Malkin left. He took a couple of pops, but not for nothing. 87 threw some hands as well. I got to tell you something. I got to be honest with you. I have been impressed with Sidney Crosby so far this season. And I know we're only a couple of games in, but the fact of the matter is he's matured, if you will. I feel like he's the best version of himself that he has ever been, you know? All right, now being told that the YouTube view is down. All right, we'll look into it. We're over on the Facebook page for everybody who usually watches on YouTube. I don't know what's going on with YouTube. But anyway, yeah, the Sid did an interview. I forget who it was with. I don't know. There's a lot of media, and I watch a lot of stuff. I want to say it was with the Spit and Chicklets guys, but it could have been with Tim and Sid up in Canada. I'm not sure entirely. But essentially, you know, the question was posed to him, which was, hey, you're getting on in age, Sid. What do you look, as you look back on your career, you know, what do you look at as something that you regret from the early days, you know, of your time in the league? And Sid was basically like, talking to the refs, man. I complained a bit too much, was essentially his answer. And I was very taken back by that because, you know, you look at Sid and the number one knock on him, obviously he's the best player in the game and has been for a number of years. Definitely took the mantle from Gretzky or Yager or however you want to say it. But obviously the premier face of the league, right? And the biggest knock on him was that he was a baby and he always cried to the referees. And for him to acknowledge that this far into his career and be like, I'm changing things, I don't know. I was pretty impressed with that. You know, you look at some of the other greats in the games, LeBron especially, who tend to be not so self-aware. Trying to think who else in baseball. I guess any of the steroid guys who were sort of the face of the league and all the lying that went on there. Look, there's not a lot of self-awareness with some of these major superstars, especially those that are, face of the franchise, face of the league guys, right? There's just not a lot of self-awareness there. And for Sid to come around and be like, hey, the thing that everybody picks on me for, yeah, well, they were right. I was terrible. I was pretty impressed with that. I'm sorry, but that was impressive if you ask me. I didn't think that he had that in him, but he did. And then he turns around and then he throws a, yeah, well, I'm going to start throwing some hands around as well. I mean, it was all very impressive to me. It was all very impressive to me for him to have that sort of attitude going into the season. And then you see him early on here. Evgeni Malkin goes down and he's throwing fists, trying to get things done in the game. I was impressed with that. I was really impressed with that. And it doesn't look good for the Pittsburgh Penguins moving forward. They're going to rely on some other guys to come in here. But I will say, when Malkin went out, Jared McCann sort of took his spot on that second line. And he played really good. McCann, I think, put 2 goals up on that in that Blue Jackets game. So, I don't think it's panic time for Jimmy Rutherford over there in Pittsburgh to go out and do something, which, by the way, is going to be really, really difficult given the Penguins' cap situation. I mean, everybody's cap situation. It kind of feels like things are pretty difficult these days to go out and get a trade done. There's not many scenarios if you got to go out and make a move where you don't have to lose cap space in order to gain whatever the need is that you need. That really complicates having to go out and make a move. Obviously, if you have cap space, you can just go out there and get give up a pick or, give up a minor leaguer and then come in and, get the guy that you need to get. That's obviously a lot easier to do, than if you have to go and mess around with other monies and moving stuff around and whatnot. So that's a pretty significant thing to keep in mind for the Pittsburgh Penguins. So you rely on Jared McCann. He gets you through, obviously, 2 goals and everything else, but can he do it for the long haul? Can he be there with you over the course of, what are we looking at here? 26 games, 40 games? I mean, when they talked about it, when Mike Sullivan addressed it in the press conference, he basically said, look, he'll be back before the end of the year. But, I mean, that's, 40 games, 50 games. I mean, you're talking about a really long run there. So I don't know what's going to happen with the Pittsburgh Penguins, but I'm sure we'll have some trade rumors coming up really, really soon here, especially because you have Julius Honk out there. We talked about ad nauseum, basically. What's his name for the Isles, which, by the way, I think he might have gotten hurt, Thomas Hickey. But you got a couple of defensive options that are available, even so much to the point of, we were talking about, speaking of defensive options, we were talking about Winnipeg, and they've lost more guys. Winnipeg is without Josh Morrissey. He's gone. He's injured. I think he skated again, which is good, but injured. And who was the other guy for Winnipeg? I was just looking at it. Lost Kulikov. Kulikov took a leave of absence. That's 2 leave of absences for Winnipeg. Their defensive play, their defensemen have gotten so bad that John Scott has come forward and volunteered, tweeted at the Jets, I'm available to play defense if you need. Okay? Now, first of all, that's hilarious. Second of all, that's scary. Because when you got John Scott joking around about, hey, Winnipeg, I know you guys are going through some tough times. I can step in for you if you need. You're in dire trouble. You're in dire trouble. Now, luckily for Winnipeg, they play Pittsburgh next, and they just lost Evgeni Malkin and Nick Bjugstad. So they might have a chance of getting a win here. But I don't know. I'm still going to go with Pittsburgh for sure in this scenario. Absolutely. Especially if John Scott's in the lineup. as a defenseman. There is this crazy. I don't even know who half these guys are, to be honest with you, suiting up for Winnipeg. I mean, I looked at their lineup for tonight. They have Tucker Pullman. That sounds made up. I mean, that literally sounds like, a porn star character. Tucker Pullman's here. Help you with that, pool heater back there. Anthony Bitetto, who I've heard of. Neil Pionk is the most experienced defenseman now on the Winnipeg Jets. Ville Heinola, Carl Dahlstrom, who they just picked up on waivers the other day, and Sammy Niku. This is the Winnipeg Jets defenseman. There's this crazy stat that's floating around right now where the team who has the youngest core of defensemen, meaning the least amount of games played in the National Hockey League right now, is the Colorado Avalanche. The Colorado Avalanche have a combined games played by defensemen in the National Hockey League at 1,461. That's the least, obviously, except Winnipeg. But 1,461 games played by their defensemen is the Colorado Avalanche right now. If you look at the Winnipeg Jets defensive lineup right now, they have a combined 361 games played in the National Hockey League. That's 1,100 games of experience worth of a difference there. Dear Lord, that is insane. I mean, you are at crazy. I mean, it's, lucky for Winnipeg that Morrissey is skating, but even if you put Morrissey back in this lineup, the fact that Kulikov is out, I mean, how long, if you're Kevin Cheveldayoff, can you carry this sort of a setup? How long? How long can you go for? I mean, I would be hitting the panic button. I would be in there trying to make some moves. And I mean, I'm sure, Kevin's an experienced general manager. He's one of the best general managers in the game. I'm sure he's out there kicking tires right now as we speak. But still, I mean, you got to figure, you got to pull off something relatively soon. You can't keep trucking out that lineup and expect to, get off to a good start. A good start is super important, as important as anything. And the Jets are 1-2. And if it wasn't for the fact that the Devils have their heads up their rear ends, they would be awful. They would be awful because the Rangers went toe-to-toe with them in their home opener and came out on top. They got the last punch in there. They were getting dominated, losing 4-0 to the Devils. And the Devils just took their foot off the gas, and they wound up winning that game, I believe, in overtime. And then they went over to the Coliseum, and the Islanders handled them pretty readily without many issues. They don't look good, the Winnipeg Jets. And defense, we're seeing now in the National Hockey League, and I think we're seeing more than ever in these first couple of games, is super important. Case in point, let's look at the Carolina Hurricanes. I talked about Carolina being a wild card going into this, but I love their speed, their quickness, and I love Rod Brind'Amour as a coach. I think he's been able to do a lot with them. And I said they're taking this sort of Moneyball approach where they're looking at what's out there and they're piecing together some stats and they're looking at contracts and they're very frugal and they're very fiscally responsible. But one thing that is constant with the Carolina Hurricanes, and that is they are fast. I mean, really fast. And their back end is even faster than their forwards. And that back end can move the puck up the ice. They can generate chances. They went in and played the Tampa Bay Lightning. I think they outshot them in the second period like 12, 13, 14, nothing. They held the Tampa Bay Lightning to no shots for an entire period. I know we're 3 games into the season, but still, I'm sorry. That is impressive. They're 3-0. They're off to a good start. If you're Winnipeg, if you don't want to panic right now, you should be able to see panic from where you're sitting. Carolina looks great, and they brought back that storm surge. which I think they did it again, and they just did the whole skating down the ice, slamming up against the board. I like that. I can tolerate that. I can tolerate that. Do the simple thing, the clapping I like, keeps the whole crowd into it. There's no difference to me between the clapping and skating up against the boards is holding up your stick in the middle of center. It's the same thing to me. One's more interactive than the other. So I have no issues with that whatsoever. But I will say, early on in the season here, Carolina has been impressive. Really impressive. Vegas has been impressive. Vegas has a +7 goal differential. Marc-Andre Fleury looks just fine. This Cody Glass kid is up on that second line doing just fine, right? Their defense is good. Again, mobile, able to get the puck up the ice and generate chances. Smith, Stone, Carlson, that speed up front. Their top six looks good. The top six in Vegas looks good. I really like how they're shaking out. Colorado's off to a good start. I like how they're looking. Adam wants to know, how snake-bit are my Yotes? Coyotes in 2 games have only given up 3 goals, but we only have 1 goal. That's not going to work. No, it is not. No, it is not, my friend. I'm not worried about the Coyotes just yet. Again, they're a team that I like how they're built all the way out. I believe in Ranta, although he's been hurt, though, right? I think Ranta's been hurt. I like Kemper. He's in there 1.54 goals against average so far in the 2 games. You got a good back end. It all starts with Oliver Ekman-Larsson. Saw some crazy rumor about Alex Goligoski being traded, which to me is total fabrication. I like how some of these guys run their rumors. You should appreciate how the Hockey Talk Show runs rumors. We actually talk about substantial rumors. I read this rumor the other day. One of the writers that follows the Coyotes were like, yeah, Goligoski got traded because his full no movement went to a modified no movement, and if they're not looking good for the playoffs, he could be traded. Yeah, well, thanks. Water's wet and the sky's blue. I mean, there's no reason to even put something like that out there. It's just dumb. But to me, look, your team lives and dies with Phil Kessel and Clayton Keller. That's the heart and soul of your offense. Soderberg behind that, and Derek Stepan if he shows up. Michael Grabner is a wild card in a coin toss. The crazy thing about Grabner is he'll score you 30 goals, and he'll do it in the span of 40 games. It could be the last 40 games of the season. Could be the middle 40 games. You never really know when it comes to Michael Grabner. But I think the offense will be there in the long term for Arizona. I wouldn't panic so far there. But, yeah, you got some work to do. And also, look, Stepan, Kessel, as great as he is, and I love him, he's a 35, 40 goal guy. I think he'll have a bigger role there with more playing time. But, a little on the lazy side, goes at his own pace, doesn't worry about too much what other people think or say about his game, So you're going to have to contend with all that kind of stuff. Speaking of playing time, let's talk about the trade. Rangers move Vladislav Namestnikov to the Ottawa Senators. They pick up a 4th-round pick in the 2021 draft, and also this minor leaguer, Nick Ebert, who will probably stay in Hartford for the most part. And Namestnikov goes up there to Ottawa. I like this deal a lot. I like it because, the Rangers get somebody off of their payroll. I mean, nobody thinks of the Rangers as a payroll team, but they were paying Vlad, even though they're retaining salary, I think $700,000 or whatever it was, they're paying Vladdy Namestnikov a lot of money to sit down there on the 3rd line. You know what I mean? And it just doesn't make sense. To me, he's not a 3rd line guy. He's not exactly a 2nd line guy either, but he's a 20, 25 goal scorer. He has the potential to be just that. I mean, the year he was traded to the Rangers, I think he was on pace for 25 goals, or he scored 25 goals or whatever it was. Never really hit that before or after, but he's come really, really close. And I think he's a 2nd line guy on a really bad team. I think the role for Vladdy Namestnikov fits perfectly with the Ottawa Senators. They get to use one of their best assets, a ton of cap space. They also get a guy who they can move into the middle, which Namestnikov has been playing a lot of wing in New York. Now he can go over and move into the middle if he wants. $3.2 million this year. So a little help for the cap stricken Ottawa Senators, especially if they're not footing the bill for all of the contract. And he'll get his second line minutes. And you know what? He'll put up 20 goals with the Ottawa Senators. I believe that. And Ottawa's just they got Bodker and Artem Anisimov. They got all these guys where you're kind of like, they could be in the league, they could be out of the league. They're third line guys for the most part for most of the league. I like Connor Brown a whole ton. Anthony Duclair again, like journeyman, traveler. They haven't really given Brady Tkachuk a lot to be surrounded with. I think Tkachuk has been playing with Tyler Ennis, if I'm not mistaken, which no knock against Tyler Ennis. He's a great utility guy, $800,000 guy, but come on, man, the future of your franchise is Brady Tkachuk, and you're over there treating him like he's not such. And you got Colin White. You got some guys who can mix it up. You get Namestnikov in there. Actually, look, I don't get many chances to praise the Ottawa Senators or Pierre Dorion, but I think this is actually a really good move. You don't really see many trades 2 games into the year, but like I said, the Rangers kind of free up some payroll. They bring up a little bit more space to give some of these younger guys a chance. You're not taking up a third line spot with a guy that has no future in your organization that you're not re-signing. You get a little something in return. Everybody kind of wins in this trade. But here's the thing. There's going to be moans and groans when Namestnikov scores 25, maybe even 30 goals with the Ottawa Senators. And you're like, no way that guy scores 30. Well, when you're going to get he's going to get all the playing time, probably first line power play unit, maybe second. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's going to get a ton of play time. He's going to score more goals than he ever has before. He kind of got squeezed out of Tampa because he was the odd man out because everybody else was so much better. The Rangers don't care for him to have the space for him. They'd rather probably keep McKegg in the lineup for their toughness and then, give Lemieux and Fast a little bit more of that time. Brett Howden seems to be pretty impressive. So they've got some third line guys they want to run up the ice time with. So it makes sense for them. But you can't be all like, oh, the Rangers suck. They traded away a 25, 30 goal scorer. That guy's never going to score that many goals being the third line guy in New York. Being the first line guy, second line guy, first line power play unit in Ottawa, now he'll start putting up some marks. So you can't have any remorse for this. It's a good move from Jeff Gordon. It's a good move for Pierre Dorion as well. Anthony Mantha, speaking of off to good starts, 4 goals the other night. Did you see that? A nice little run there. And, now that we're on the category of starts, good and bad, how about the Dallas Stars? Not off to a good start. That's worrisome to me. 0-3. San Jose is 0-3. The Dallas Stars are 0-3. Minnesota is 0-2. Vancouver is 0-2. These are not good starts. San Jose is 0-3 with a -9 goal differential. What is going on in San Jose? And how fast can you sign Patrick Marleau? I'm kidding. I don't really mean that. But still, that's a worrisome start. But Dallas has looked flat as all heck. Now, I know Corey Perry is starting to skate with them a little bit, and he's going to join the lineup. But I really thought that Joe Pavelski would be a nice little shot in the arm for the Dallas Stars. And as it turns out, he absolutely has not been so far. Vancouver's also off to a rough start, but they haven't played a home game yet. They will go home and they will name a new captain who I believe will be Bo Horvat. I mean, they talked about some of the A's, some of the guys that are going to be wearing the alternate A for this season, Chris Tanev and Alex Edler and Brandon Sutter, these guys. Bo Horvat as well. I think, there's your top 4 for captain, and I think it'll be Bo Horvat. I mean, it deserves to be Bo Horvat. The guy just, he stuck with Vancouver. He signed with Vancouver in sort of their transitional tough time. You got him locked up for 4 or 5 years or whatever it was that he signed for. Brock Besser's not ready to be there yet. Louis Eriksson, absolutely not. JT Miller, these guys. A lot of good veterans on that team, but nobody like Bo Horvat's the guy you're going to build around. Brock Besser, Bo Horvat, these are the guys you're going to build around, and there's a little bit more experience in Bo Horvat. He's a little bit older. than Brock Besser. So Bo Horvat, I think, will be named the next Canucks captain. And good for him. He deserves it. It's part of turning the page for Vancouver. Again, it's early in assessment. But I look at that team and a lot of people are like, oh, maybe this is the year. I think they make good strides. I don't know if this is a playoff year for Vancouver, having seen them in a couple of games, but I reserve judgment. Again, 10 games into the season, we'll do some really good full evaluations and we'll see where we're at. Because again, you look at this and everybody's like, well, and even we talked about it in the preseason, like Pittsburgh, how could you count them out? Crosby, Malkin. Well, if it's only Crosby for 50 games out of the 82, it's a lot easier to count out the Pittsburgh Penguins. You know what I mean? So it's hard to make some of these preseason predictions. Everybody picking Winnipeg because they've been great all along, and then all of a sudden, all their D is out on injury or personal leave or whatever, stubbing their toes, on the trainer's table. And then, suddenly Winnipeg don't look so good. San Jose is a rough one. I think I picked San Jose to go to the Cup final. That's looking like a really dumb pick right now. But it's early. It's early on. So, we're watching the standings, but Vegas looks good. They're in the first spot in the Pacific. I don't see that changing anytime soon. Anaheim's off to actually a surprisingly good start. Edmonton, credit to them, 2-0. How do they handle their road trip here? They're playing the Islanders tonight. They have not done well in Long Island. I think they've lost every game I think the year they won the Cup, 84. That was the last time they won in Long Island. It has been a rough go for Edmonton and Long Island. I don't know if it's the plane ride or whatever it is, but they cannot win against the Islanders. They have definitely been snake bitten. Isles, by the way, will wear their their third jerseys, which I am super happy about because I've been tracking the Islanders, and the rumors were that they were going to get new third jerseys. And then at some point over the season, that was canceled. And if you know anything about Lou Lamoriello, he is not a fan of the third jersey. He is as traditional gets. If you notice, most of his teams, with a very, very rare exception, all wears low numbers, everybody under 50. Rookies do not get, I don't even think rookies get a number over 25, 30. He likes to keep those numbers really low for the rookies. I remember when Lou was still the GM of the Devils, he made the rare exception for Jaromir Jagr. But he still kind of paused and gave it some thought. He was like, Jagr, yeah, I guess I'll let him wear 68. That's Lou's hardcore. Lou don't play around, man. And when Lou took over, and I read that there were rumors for that new third jersey. By the way, this has been in the plans, in the works for a long time. Usually jersey introductions take 2 years to do. Team will develop a concept. They'll go out. They'll make a bunch of them. Then they got to get it approved by the league. Then they hem and haw over it. Then they let the marketing people decide. And Adidas has to chime in. And, can we sell it? How many can we sell? This one will sell more than that one. All this kind of garbage. It takes 2 years for a team to introduce a jersey. So it's been in the works for a while. And then when I heard it got squashed, I was like, oh, par for the course. And I was like, they're probably not even, since they were killing the jerseys that they're going to wear tonight in favor of new ones, I thought, well, that's it. But it turns out it's not the case. They will wear the thirds tonight. I do like them. It's the blues with just the NY, sans the island in them, and the white shoulder patches, which I love. We don't have enough white shoulder patches in the National Hockey League. I think that's a solid look on a jersey to have a lot of color and then the white shoulder patch. I don't know what it is about that look. I love it a lot, and the Islanders will sport it tonight. The Colorado's kind of got that look. A few teams have the white shoulder patch. I wish they had more of those around the league. But we never got to do our jersey special. I'm still I have it. We have it all the jersey rundowns, the new ones, the thirds. By the way, there are still some that need to be announced, so I'm kind of holding in my back pocket for a slow day. We'll bring the jersey show in, and we'll do a show all on the new jerseys, and we'll talk about all the current jerseys and everything else. We'll have one of those shows for sure coming up. But yeah, the Islanders will wear the thirds tonight, which I'm looking forward to seeing. And it looks like Noah Dobson will make his debut. Just as I speculated, it'll be Johnny Boychuk will sit out. That was the pairings in practice this afternoon for the Islanders. Makes total sense. Boychuk is as solid as they come. He's a great veteran, makes a lot of money, real good locker room guy to lean on, cannon of a shot. But he's fallen off in the last couple of years. This is obviously going to be the start of a transition. Letty's still got tons of wheels. Boychuk is going to find himself the odd man out for sure with the Islanders. And if Noah's going to play a good amount of time, it's a great situation. You take all the pressure off of everybody involved, right? You want to play Noah. He's playing well. You can give him responsibilities, handling it great. Fantastic. Play Noah. Noah's not doing so well, blowing his assignment, whatever the case may be. You got to bring in the veteran presence and Johnny Boychuk. Great. You play Johnny Boychuk. It just makes a lot of sense. He's making $6 million this year. In the next 2 years, I wouldn't be surprised, though, at 35, he's got a full no move. Maybe a buyout's in his future if he really continues to, degenerate as a player, or maybe you just keep him around. It's an expensive seventh defenseman. Again, you lose a Hickey, just a casualty of numbers, but it is what it is. What are you going to do? If you're Lou, you're sitting there going, no, you can't move him. If you're in a situation where you can't move him, nobody's interested in having him. Or, a guy like that for an Ottawa Senators or somebody who's just trying to get to the cap floor, maybe that makes sense moving forward in an offseason move. But that's basically it. But I like Johnny Boychuk. I still think he's going to play a ton of games. Maybe just maybe Noah Dobson is in there for 30, 40 games. Maybe he's splitting time with Boychuk. Maybe it'll be an every other game scenario. Maybe it'll be road games. You play one guy for 3, sit him for 3, play the other guy. Who knows what it's going to be for the Islanders. But, Noah Dobson will make his debut tonight. He'll have to handle number 97, which is not going to be easy with the Edmonton Oilers, and it should be a good tilt over at the Nassau Coliseum. But Edmonton off to a 2-0 start. They got the new coach. They got the new general manager in there. Obviously, they're trying to turn things around. A lot of people have put a little bit of a time clock on Connor McDavid, and if he'll ask for a trade, it feels like every year they say they've got 2 years to figure it out, but every year they keep saying it's 2 years, so I don't know if that's necessarily true, but you got to figure at some point Connor McDavid's going to get really upset if his teams aren't competitive and he's, carrying this whole thing by himself. I mean, Sidney Crosby had to do that. And again, consider what Crosby could have been and how many championships this guy could have won if he came into the league that was 10 years into, labor peace and a good salary cap situation. You know what I mean? Like Crosby came in at the time he came in and we had a lot of labor stoppages. The salary cap situation was super low to start. It was tough. You had to play him with Chris Kunitz's and, you had to go, number 9, I love him, but you had to go out there and you had to put him with some guys that were pretty affordable. Imagine what sort of scenario Sidney Crosby could have been in and how many championships he could have won had he been drafted and come into the league today. 3 years on an entry level, then a modest raise, in RFA status. It could have been a lot different for Pittsburgh. They could have won a lot more championships. And you can't sort of take that same, we'll figure it out 5, 6, 7 years down the line for Connor McDavid. You got to let the guy win. Let's take a look at tonight's games. Carolina, Florida. I like the Carolina Hurricanes to continue winning down there in Florida even. 7 o'clock start there. Islanders in Edmonton. Give me the Islanders. I think they looked really good against Winnipeg. They finally sort of hit their stride. Edmonton does not do well in the Nassau Coliseum. They're on the road. I don't know if it's the flight. They hate the mattresses over at the Marriott. I don't know what it is. But I like the Islanders at home. I don't know about Cizikas. If he makes it into the lineup tonight, that will make a difference. If he's in the lineup, assuredly, I think the Islanders will win. Pittsburgh and Winnipeg. Give me Pittsburgh. They will take advantage. You don't need Evgeni Malkin in the lineup to beat that Winnipeg defense tonight. It's going to be sad. Give me the Pittsburgh Penguins there. Dallas and Washington. Washington on a 2-0 start. Actually, 2-0-1 start. I thought that they've been okay. Pretty good. Not off to the gangbuster start that I thought they would be having. You can put me down for that for the Tampa Bay Lightning as well. They're 1-1-1. But Dallas and Washington, Dallas struggling. I think they'll continue to struggle against the Caps. Give me the Caps at home. Give me Anaheim on the road in Detroit. San Jose, I think, will stop the bleeding tonight in Nashville. That's the NBC game for this evening. Give me San Jose against the Predators. Give me the Calgary Flames against the Kings. And give me the Vegas Golden Knights against Boston, traveling early on. Vegas flu probably in full effect there. I like Vegas, though. I like Cody Glass a whole lot. He's skating really well. I like Fleury and net, as I've been saying. I like the Boston Bruins, and, they're off to a fairly good start, too. 2-0 in their first 2 games, but give me the Vegas Golden Knights. I think they wear you down if you're on the road, and again, Vegas flu, all that kind of stuff. Apologies for the YouTube stream not working tonight. We'll see what that is and if we can fix that, but thanks to everybody who watched on Facebook, and of course, if you listen to this via podcast, I certainly do appreciate. Keep that going. Make sure you guys hit the share button all around. Share the podcast link if you can. Share the Facebook link if you can. Blog up at hockeytalkshow.com, and we'll catch you guys on the next shift. Have a great night.